At the start of the movie, Mark wakes up on the ground with a killer headache after a fly landed on his face. He blames it on drinking too much. Then he smells something weird, turns, and finds a dead rat covered in flies. Startled, he sits up and realizes he's inside a very strange room. It's empty except for a locker against the wall and a light on the ceiling. The big iron door tells him this is a vault. Mark tries to open it, but the handle won't budge. He pounds on the door and calls out to his friends, thinking it's a prank, but no one answers. He checks his phone, no signal. He tries the locker too, but the lock won't budge, and he can't see inside. When he sniffs the locker, the flies bother him again. Mark looks for security cameras but finds none. He threatens to pee in the room if no one rescues him soon. Still no answer, so he pees on the wall while insulting his captors. For the next few hours, Mark sits around talking to himself, trying to figure out how he got here but remembering little. He realizes that if no one comes soon, he'll have to poop on the floor too. Then he starts yelling that he's hungry, thirsty, and needs to call his boss about missing work. He pounds on the door and even uses his belt to make more noise, but it's pointless. After minutes of complaining about the silence and the rat smell, Mark kicks the locker, nothing. He climbs on top of it and yells to be let out, again to no avail. The next day, maggots appear on the rat. Mark wakes up on the floor to find nothing has changed. He checks his phone, drops it, and it breaks. It didn't matter anyway, still no signal. Desperate with thirst, he pees in his shoe and drinks it to stay hydrated. It tastes disgusting, so he pretends it's beer. After more yelling, he puts the wet shoe on and kicks the rat toward the door. Then he hits the light and notices something inside. He hits it harder, it falls, and he finds a key. Scared but determined, Mark opens the locker, revealing 2 gas canisters and some tools. First, he uses a hammer and chisel on the door, ruining the paint but not denting the metal. Next, he struggles with the canisters until a tool helps open them. Assembling the equipment takes time since he's not familiar with it, but eventually he makes a working blowtorch. He aims the flame at the sprinkler on the ceiling, nothing happens. Then Mark uses the blowtorch on the door. It leaves a burn mark but won't break through. He hits the burnt area with the hammer, still pointless. Furious, Mark throws the locker to the floor and hits it for a while. Then he climbs on it to reach the sprinkler and breaks it with the hammer. For the next few minutes, he takes out his anger on every object he can reach until everything is in pieces. He only stops when he realizes he's wasting too much body water. Sitting on the floor, he goes through what he knows and concludes someone wants to kill him very slowly while watching him suffer. Then he notices a hole in the wall and starts making it bigger with the tools. Dust gets in his eyes, but that only makes him angrier and more eager for revenge. Even when he hurts his hand with the hammer, Mark keeps working, only stopping to rest. Eventually he's too drained and it gets hard to breathe, so he inhales some gas from the container and passes out. Thankfully he wakes up quickly and closes the tank before something bad happens. Next he eats the maggots from the rat's body, sarcastically calling them healthy and organic. They taste awful, but he eats as many as he can. Lastly, he pees in his shoe again and drinks it, which almost makes him puke. After working on the wall for a while, Mark finds metal reinforcements. He grabs the blowtorch and laughs while using the flame to successfully break the metal. Assuming he's reached the middle of the wall, he announces he'll get out soon. Then he falls asleep on top of the locker. Later, flies wake him again, and he immediately starts working on the hole. This time he lasts long enough to finally reach the other side. No one answers when he talks, so he keeps working until the hole is big enough to push through. After lots of struggle, he reaches the other room and is devastated to find a vault just like his. This door won't open either, and he pounds on it with fury. When Mark turns around, he notices a fallen lamp, a coffin, and a chain hanging from the ceiling. Pulling the chain turns on a light. Worried about the coffin's contents, Mark reaches through the hole to get his chisel as a weapon. Then he opens the coffin and finds a sleeping woman inside. He pokes her a few times, nothing happens, but then she wakes up screaming. She panics, thinking Mark wants to hurt her, and rushes to the door speaking a language he doesn't understand. Since the door won't open, she goes to the other vault through the hole. Mark tries to follow and says it's alright, but she screams even more, so he stays behind. He collapses, laughing at how ridiculous it is to say it's alright, only stopping when she throws the rat through the hole. Mark turns off the light and sleeps in the coffin. The woman inspects the vault and pees in a corner. The next day, she crosses the hole with the chisel and pokes Mark awake. Seeing they're still trapped, he turns over and goes back to sleep, so she turns on all the lights and gives him the chisel. Mark falls off the coffin trying to get out, and she gives him the hammer, clearly wanting him to make another hole. After making her choose the next wall, Mark has her hold the chisel while he hammers. But she's afraid of getting hurt and pulls her hands back. Since she won't cooperate, Mark agrees to hold the chisel while she hammers. She doesn't hit hard enough, the wall isn't even scratched, so Mark has to do it all himself again. Whenever he takes a break, she tries to work a little, only to hurt her hand. Mark keeps wondering who put him here while watching her and starts feeling attracted to her. Suddenly she runs to the other room to pee, and Mark follows, so she grabs a glass shard to defend herself, thinking he wants to abuse her. He throws one of his shoes at her and uses gestures to ask her to pee in it so he can drink it. At first she refuses, so he yells until she changes her mind. She makes him turn around before relieving herself and hands back the shoe. Mark drinks her pee and leaves a bit for her to stay hydrated too. He also eats some maggots and tries to share, but she declines. When Mark starts considering eating the rat, she stops him, it would make him sick. Later while Mark works, she talks about her home in Africa and cries, but he still can't understand her. Desperate to distract her, Mark sings badly, and she laughs. He asks her to sing too, and she shares a traditional song in her lovely voice. She pounds on the wall for rhythm, and Mark hammers to the same tempo. Distracted, he hammers his own hand. Seeing him bleed, she tears fabric from her hat and bandages his hand. Now Mark has to hold the chisel while she hammers. Even though she's very slow, she accidentally hits his hand anyway. But he says it's fine and makes her keep going. Suddenly the door handle moves. She rushes to open it, nothing. Mark follows and tries to, still nothing. He pounds on the door yelling for help, and she cries. Refusing to give up, Mark goes back to the wall and makes her hammer again. The handle moves again, she rushes over, but it won't budge. Furious, Mark threatens to torture and kill their captors one day, then they get back to work. As soon as she hammers, the handle moves again. Mark says it's a trap and makes her ignore it. The more they hammer, the more the handle moves, it only stops if they turn around. Realizing this, they move toward the door walking backwards so they don't look at it. This time they open the door and enter another vault. Here they find an open grave, a red tombstone with no inscription, and a fallen chandelier. Mark checks the grave, nothing inside, so he assumes it's for them. They decide to keep digging, hoping the turning trick works again. But as they dig, the door stays the same. After many hours, Mark collapses with a light fever. He furiously yells insults at their captors and wonders if they want him to eat the woman. She thinks she's about to die, but Mark swears he'd never do that and has a breakdown. Then she pulls his arm, he won't move, so she slaps him. Mark can't stand, so she keeps kicking and pulling until she pushes him out of the hole. Now she has a breakdown, yelling at God instead of their captors. Then she puts her tears in Mark's mouth to hydrate him. Getting desperate, she undresses Mark, and they end up getting naughty on the floor. After a good nap, Mark wakes up next to his partner instead of flies. He crawls to the coffin, tears off upholstery, and puts it over her as a blanket before falling asleep again. Moments later, the door handle starts rotating. Mark quickly wakes her so they can move. They're both very weak and can barely stand, but they support each other walking backward without looking at the door. When it finally opens, they turn around and are shocked to discover they're in paradise. It seems they were Adam and Eve all along and had to learn their right to happiness through teamwork and effort. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.